Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us again today, everyone. My name is Noel Sayer, and I'm the concierge here at Planet Australia and your host for our webinar today. Before we get started, I'd just like to let everyone know that we are recording this webinar. The format for our webinar today is essentially an introduction and overview of cabinet vision design and VORTEK spaces. Some of you may be familiar with the content being shown. However, please do send us any questions by typing them into the Q&A chat, which I'll be opening shortly, or otherwise feel free to send them along after our webinar today. We hope to have time to answer any questions. However, we do have a large audience, and if we can't make it around to everybody, we will be sure to follow up with everyone after the webinar individually. I'd like to introduce our key presenter today, Damien Sentong, from our service team, who will be taking us through cabinet vision design and VORTEK spaces. We're also joined by some of our sales team, our account managers. Welcome to Rebecca Suter and Laura Cross, and from our business development manager team, Jack Davison and Dion Iori. And without any further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Damien, who will be presenting cabinet vision design and VORTEK spaces. Over to you, Damien.
Thanks, Noel. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar for cabinet vision design and VORTEK spaces. I hope today's webinar gives everyone a better insight and introduction to what cabinet vision design can provide for you, as well as what VORTEK spaces can provide for you as well. So like the other webinars, just a little bit of a note, I will be switching between various screens for the presentation, cabinet vision, and then eventually VORTEK spaces. So just starting with the presentation. So the first topic I'll be covering is cabinet vision design and what it is and what it offers to those who are interested in the product. So cabinet vision design was configured with the intent to support design and sales individuals and companies. So giving the ability to create accurate designs, renderings, and pricing estimates. So what I'll be doing is essentially demonstrating the whole module of cabinet vision design and all the benefits and features that it can provide for you. So what I'll be doing now is just switching over to my cabinet vision. So as you can see, we're operating in cabinet vision version 2023. So as we see the splash screen here, this is what cabinet vision design offers to its users. Now, for those who are familiar with cabinet vision already, you would all be familiar with a majority of the features and options that are across the top ribbon bar. Given that it is cabinet vision design, so as you can see, we are missing the machining elements or X machining from the module. So there would be no machine or tool catalog and or connections catalog either, as well as the IntelliJoints manager. So as we can see on the left, we still have the ability to access the part manager. So if any of you were attending the Core and Cabinets webinar, I would have explained this in great detail into regards what the part manager offers you. Just a little bit of a revision though. The part manager is essentially the full catalog of every single part that is usable inside of cabinet vision, as well as providing the name and description of the parts. Cabinet vision design, however, does not allow the ability to edit the name of the part, though you can still access if required. Furthermore to that is the material manager. So given that CV design or cabinet vision design is tailored around the design aspect, creating materials is still relatively important. So as you can see on the left-hand side, we still have access to all of our panel stock, our drawer guides and hinges as well, primarily. Now, most importantly, obviously with the design aspect of cabinet vision, you still can apply your finishes and textures. What I'll begin with here is the ability or demonstrating on how to import a texture. So going into the material manager, across the top bar, we can see that we have the texture function available to us. So I'll be selecting the texture icon, and it does provide you with the texture manager. Now, as you can see on the left, there are various groups currently within this database for the different textures. So in order to import a texture, most importantly, you need to have the image readily available. Now, with importing textures, you would generally need to find a JPEG image or a BMP image. So as I'll demonstrate, it will look for those particular file types. Now, to actually import an image, initially we need to select or create a group for that texture to go into. So if I just select, for example, on the miscellaneous group, you can see that the ability to import an image becomes available. So what I'll be doing is demonstrating how to import that image. So if I select import image and I go to load an image file, it will bring up the location as to where you would need to select the image from. So what I'll be doing is just going over to my downloads. And as you can see in the bottom right corner, it does look for a BMP file initially. Though if you do select on the drop-down, you can also select the JPEG. I do not have any images here at the moment, so I'll be running through that whole process with you. So I'm just going to open up my Internet Explorer. Just bringing the screen up to the top. So all you need to do is just go into Google or your internet browser. You can just go into images. Now, it can be any image that you are looking to import. So in most cases, it's going to be a color that's supplied from one of the major suppliers here. So I'm just going to type in VORTEK as an example. So we can see the range of colors that are available for the image. Now I'm just going to select a random one. So this stone gray color. So I'm going to right click and save the image and save it just under my downloads. Okay, so we have our image that is now available. Now I'm going to go back to our cabinet vision screen. And as you can see, our window is still up for the image to select. Now we have our stone gray, so I'm going to open up that file. Now, as you can see, the file has now uploaded. So once you upload a file, you are then prompted to provide it with a name. So I'm just going to type in the name, VORTEK stone gray. Now with the description, you can just copy everything and place it in the description. Now there are two options on the left-hand side for tile and decal. Generally, you'd want to select both if you are wanting to use that in that type of application. Now, once you select the two options, you are then prompted to input the world size. Now, the world size is just the image size for the pixel width and the pixel height. So in order to discover what that is, you would just need to find your image. So if I got, just going to, apologies. Just going to bring up my file explorer to the top screen. So I'm going to right click on my image and go to its properties. And then under details, you will find the pixel width and the pixel height. So all you need to do is input these values into the world width and world height. So if it was 960 by 960, and if I click OK, as you can see, it says it already exists. So I'm just going to override it. And now the texture becomes available for you to use inside of your cabinet vision file. So that is the general process of importing a texture. Like I said, it can be literally any image that you are wanting to display inside of your file. So now I'll just be closing the material manager. And furthermore, you have your material schedules as well. So again, if you were part of the Core and CAD webinar, I did go into an extent in explaining what these essentially do. We also have our door manager. Now, the door manager is generally a common question that we get asked in regards to cabinet vision design, if we are able to create particular door styles, apply profiles. So with cabinet vision design, you do have the ability to create a limited amount of doors. Now, inside of my door manager here, I do have a routed group on the left-hand side. So these are just a few examples of the doors that have been created inside of cabinet vision design. Okay, so most commonly, you might want to set up a vertical slat door, a V-groove door, or if it's from Polytech, it might be called Calcutta, I believe. So just as a demonstration, I have a V-groove door set up. Now, in regards to a V-groove particularly, the door would initially start off as a slab. So if I select on creating a new door, you just give it a name. So since I already have a V-groove door, I might just call it a vertical slat door. Now you do want to keep the type as a slab, and we go to next, and we're going to finish. Okay, so we do have our slab door to work with. Now, in order to apply the actual V-groove or vertical slat profile to the door, we want to open up the properties of the door. So select your door and then go to door properties across the top bar. So we are given the door properties, as you can see. General information is what you're generally presented with when you first open up the window. Now, what we're going to look at is the design element of this particular door. So in cabinet vision design, you are prompted with the design function on the end of the top ribbon bar here. So I'm going to select on design. So now we are in the door editor for this particular door. As you can see, we are given with the door slab. So in order to change the type of door, I'm going to left click on the slab. Now, once the slab is highlighted, you are presented with your various options on the left-hand side here. So under the panel section, you do have a type. So at the moment, it is a slab because it's a flat panel. Though if you do select on the drop-down, you are presented with various options that you can apply. So for this particular application, we want a vertical slat. So as you can see, it is applying the vertical lines to the door slab. Now, along with that, you can adjust the slat width. So the slat width would be the spacing from center to center, so between each groove. All you need to do is just put in your value. So I might put in a value of 60 millimeters. Now, below that, you have your slat spacing. So this determines exactly how it's going to be spaced across the door or a panel. So on the drop down, you have two options. The first one is fixed. So a fix will give you a exact value of 60 between each groove. If you do select on optimal, optimal will equally space the grooves across the width of the door. Okay, so it might not be exactly 60, it might be a touch less, depending on the size of the door. So I am going to leave it at optimal, and I'm going to click return. You want to save your changes, and then you want to go OK. Now, if it's set up like the V-groove door, you would see the lines running across the door. Now, for those wondering if you can apply a different type of profile to the door, and what I'm talking about in particular here is called template doors. So for those that were also a part of the X machining webinar, I would have explained into some detail about using tool sets to apply profiles to doors. Now, it is somewhat possible to also do that with cabinet vision design. However, the method of applying a profile is a little bit different. So if I return out of the door manager here, and if I just fast forward to the profile manager, this is where and how profiles are applied to doors using cabinet vision design with template doors. Okay, so as you can see, our category up the top is a door route, And below that are your various types of profiles. Now, these profiles do come as a standard when you first initially install Cabinet Vision and along with Cabinet Vision Design. So as you can see, we do have various grooves. So for example, a shallow V. Now this is how the profile will appear onto the door. Now, once we enter the job example that I prepared, you will see exactly how that applies to the profile. You do have the ability to create your own inside a Cabinet Vision Design. So across the top, when you select a profile, you can edit an existing one. Then it does supply you with the drawing functions for you to create the profile that you need. If you have a DXF of the particular profile that you are wanting to use, you can also insert a DXF file, whether it's an image or a DXF file itself. And then for anyone that's shaped a part or a cabinet in Cabinet Vision before, you all would be familiar with the options and how the lines join up. Now, if I click return, and I'm going to click return again. Now, obviously, most importantly as well, Cabinet Vision Design can configure cabinet construction. So you still have the ability to set up how your cabinets will be assembled and for example, your shelf setbacks, and most importantly, how the parts will connect to each other. So if I click return, now I'm going to enter in a example that I have prepared, particularly for this webinar. So as you can see in my recent file for Cabinet Vision Design and VORTEK spaces. So I am going to open up this file. Now from here, I am going to be focusing on the design elements of Cabinet Vision Design, as well as the functionality that is available across the board. So as well as the Cabinet Vision Design, core cabinets. So as you can see, I have a significantly large size room drawn out. If I enter into my 3D view and I rotate the screen, you can see I have a kitchen drawn out already, as well as an entertainment unit across the back wall. Now, in most cases, your Cabinet Vision file may look like this with your joinery set out. If your area is more focused on the interior design element along with the joinery, you may see additional applications like windows or doors applied. Now, with Cabinet Vision Design, you are and do have the ability to still draw the various types of walls that you would see with anyone that may have a manufacturing configuration. So Cabinet Vision Design still allows the user to create and draw complex rooms. So if I select on walls, so initially when we select on walls, we still have our different drawing types. So a line, chain line, line box, as well as wall arcs as well. So you can draw curved walls. As we first select walls, we are just given with a standard or peninsular wall. So you still retain that ability to create peninsular walls, as you can see here. And as a standard, you have your standard wall type as well. Now, if I go back and select that same wall, our type on the left-hand side, as you can see, we are still presented with the various types of walls. So our cathedral and vaulted type walls as well. For those that are familiar with the last three wall configurations, if I select on cathedral, and I'm just going to go into my 3D view, you can see that the walls are pitched, both left and right. Going back to my plan view, if I select the type again, and then you would have vaulted left. And then finally, you would have vaulted right. So they just go in opposite directions, and cathedral is a combination of the both. So Cabinet Vision Design, you still have that ability to draw those kind of walls. I'm just going to delete out those walls. Now, along with design, you still have the ability to create and drop various cabinets into your room. So under your objects function on the left, we still have a cabinet library that we can utilize and draw out your entire room. So we still have our various types of base cabinets, wall cabinets, tall cabinets, and our vanity cabinets. Now, you may or may not have the same configuration depending if you've brought data over from an older version. So you may find some differences there. So along with in-cabinet vision design, you still can apply your floors and ceilings. So if I just select on floors and I can auto build a floor, go to my 3D view, and you can see it has applied a floor. And in ceilings, if I auto build a ceiling, and it places a full top across my entire room. Now I'm just going to remove the ceiling for the future purpose of what I'm going to demonstrate. And of course, creating countertops as well. So the main important aspects of drawing a room and joinery are all available in cabinet vision design. Within cabinet vision design as well, you do have access to the CAD functionality. So the configuration of cabinet vision design is great for the initial and design aspect of the drawing. And most importantly, you have the ability to annotate the drawing as well. So I'm just going to go to my first elevation on wall number 2. So as you can see, I have a layout of some cabinets here. So I have a freestanding oven with a range hood and cabinets side by side. Now, in regards to the doors that we were talking about a bit earlier, if I just demonstrate to you what I currently have set up in my job, cabinets and doors. So as you can see, my current door style is the Shaker 60mm. So if I open up the door manager, now the Shaker 60mm has been set up using a template door. Now with the template door, I can apply the different route paths that were available inside of the profile manager. So these are the system generated profiles that you can apply to a template door. So currently I have a shallow V assigned. If I wanted to change it to something else like a step route or a Batman groove, you can see it does provide you with a preview of the profile. So I'm just going to leave it on to shallow V. Now to explain in further great detail what the system profile does for these template doors, if I double click onto this drawer cabinet, now, as you can see, looking from the top view, this is what the shallow V will provide. The profile itself will only be this V. By looking at it in the 3D view, you can see the V step is running around the whole of the drawer front. So it still will retain a middle, I guess, raised panel. So the actual profile itself is just the V running around the border of the template door. So that is what the door route using system profiles does provide you. Now, while we're inside the cabinet, cabinet vision design still gives you the ability to conduct section editing. So you can still work on the face, whether it's changing the configuration to doors or drawers, and as most importantly, your section interior as well. So applying fixed shelves, adjustable shelves, or rollouts. Going back to the annotation and CAD aspect of cabinet vision design, as I mentioned, you do still have the ability to apply various 2D CAD functionality onto your drawings. So for example, if we are wanting to just apply text, you can select the text function, select any point on your room, and you can annotate anything inside of the text. So I'm just going to abbreviate adjustable shelf. So I'll just type in ADJ and click OK. So as you can see, we still have that functionality of applying annotations inside of Cabinet Vision Design. And of course, you can still import various symbols, which will be made available to you on the initial install of Cabinet Vision Design, and then still able to generate tables, import TXFs and images. Now with Cabinet Vision Design, one of the features was the costing element of the program. So if I select on the Reports tab, inside of Cabinet Vision Design, we only have the ability of order entry and bid center. Now, again, for those that were a part of the Chlorine Cabinets webinar, I did touch base on the functionality of order entry. So just to revise, order entry is the ability to add cabinets into a room without having to physically draw out a room. So this is great if you're into the flat pack business. So if you don't need to be physically drawing out rooms or dropping cabinets into a room, having or using order entry and placing cabinets inside is a great way to operate. Now, Cabinet Vision Design, you can use the bid center. So selecting on bid center. So as you can see, it does provide you with estimated pricing. Now, the pricing does come from the sales value that is also set up in the materials, as well as the different rate tables that you may set up as well. So if I select on rate tables, you can see we have various types of rate tables that you can assign to your projects. So one might be if you are doing projects for your private clients, or if they are builders projects, the prices will vary depending on how those are set up. So by selecting a rate table, you can select setup in the bottom left corner. And let me just expand the screen. And as you can see, there are various areas and categories that you can assign percentages and cost values to those areas. So by selecting a rate table, it will then generate an estimated cost. So again, great for anyone that is heavily involved in the sales side of a project, as well as the design element. Setting all of this up is a very powerful tool that will save you time. You do also still have access to the drawings tab. So with Cabinet Vision Design, once you complete your layout, you can send everything to the drawings tab. So still having the ability to create various scenes as well as your 3D images. So the next point I want to focus on now is the actual 3D aspect and rendering aspect inside of Cabinet Vision Design. So if I select on the 3D view here, so as you can see, I have our complete room. Now on the left-hand side, when you are in the 3D view, there is various options that you can utilize to adjust the rendering inside of the 3D view. So commonly starting with your finishes. Now this will also depend on the rendering type that you are using. So across the top ribbon bar, we have our render mode. So our 3 render modes, our wire mode, our fill mode. So our fill mode is more relevant to the finishes. And then lastly, our texture mode, which would then apply to our textures. So going on to fill mode, as you can see, the colors are just flat colors that you can apply to the room. By selecting finishes, you are then presented with the different areas that you can apply the colors to. So as an example, I will be changing the finish for the assembly exterior. So the assembly exterior would be anything relevant to your doors and panels, kick faces as well. So if I go assembly exterior, then you are presented with the color swatch that you can apply to that particular category. So if you want it to be green, you can select green. And you can see our assembly exterior has all turned green. And then again, you can change the color for basically any of those options that you have available here. Now, you aren't limited to just the categories on the left-hand side. You can still select the cabinet individually and also adjust the exterior finish and the texture just for that particular cabinet or object. Now, changing it to texture mode. So once I've moved it to texture mode, you can see that our floor now has a texture applied. And if I zoom in onto our countertop, you can vaguely see that there is a texture applied to the countertop here. Now, when you're inside the texture rendering mode, this is where we apply to, or we use the texture function on the left-hand side. So if I select textures, so you can see the two different textures that are already applied to those categories. So our flooring already has the wood grain texture applied, and as well as the countertop. Now with you can see our assembly exterior and interior have no texture applied. That is because the material that we are using is not a grain material. So there's no prefabs texture aside. So we can change the textures if we require. So assembly exterior. And what I'm going to use is the color that we imported previously. So if I just select on miscellaneous and our Polytech stone gray. So now you can see all of the assembly exterior has changed to that particular color. So that's utilizing finishes and textures while you're in the 3D view. Now you do also have the ability to adjust lighting. So as we can see, you have the lighting above finishes. When you open up the light editor, you are given the initial options to adjust lighting. So the first one would be what is deemed the sunlight, so which would be natural light inside of the 3D. Now, this is always inside of every cabinet vision job. You cannot remove the sunlight, though you can reposition where the sunlight is going to be directing. On the left-hand side, you do have some options in regards to what color of the light is going to be emitted and whether if you want to turn it on or off. Casting shadows for the light, and down below is the vertical and horizontal position of the beam. So as you can see, as I'm left clicking and holding on the beam, you can see the horizontal value is adjusting as I move it. Additional lights can be added by selecting the plus symbol on the light bulb. So it comes up as a positional light. So this is the light that you can hold the left click on the light and drag into the position that you require that light to be. Again, you have different types of beams. So if it's like a spotlight, directional light, or if it's pointing, then you have a height adjustment. So depending on the overall height of your room, you can adjust that vertical position of where the light is going to be placed. The next point I'll look at is the camera. So again, this is just where the different type of angle that it's going to be looking from. Generally, you won't need to be adjusting the camera editor in some aspects, as you can rotate the room if required using your mouse. Now, another function inside of the 3D aspect is the ability to add CAD to your 3D picture before even sending it to the drawing page. So a common question that we generally get, whether it's cabinet vision design or with core and cabinets, is that can we add CAD to the 3D view before sending it to the drawing? Now, as you can see, while we are in the 3D view initially, we can't actually select the value. So by right-clicking on your screen and saving a view, so once you save a view, just give the view a name. So I'm just going to remain at view 1. Click OK. Once you select OK, under the camera column, the drop-down becomes available to you. So if I select on the drop-down and go to view 1, so with view 1, I still can zoom in and out. However, I cannot rotate the view as the view has been saved in that lock position. But once you select the view, on the left, you'll see the CAD function is now available to use. So now you can apply different texts, or if it's a leader, so a leader being your arrow systems, and then applying text. So you can, so I'm just going to type in kitchen as an example. And you can apply the CAD onto this save view. And then once you are finished, you then can send it to the drawing. So I've already sent it to the drawing. And if I select the drawings tab, you can see I have my 3D image available. Moving back to 3D. Part of the rendering process is the ability to enhance the view as well. So as we are looking in the 3D view, we can see all our cabinets and walls have quite jagged lines. So selecting on enhance will remove those lines and smoothing it out. So if I select enhance, might take a moment as due to the size of the room. So as you can see, everything has enhanced. So the lines aren't so jagged anymore and everything looks a little bit more detailed and cleaner. So you can, once it's enhanced, send it to the drawing, come back to our drawings tab and pull out the view. So you can see everything looks a bit more cleaner, a bit more neater, and quote unquote, it's enhanced. So they're the basic functions of the rendering aspect or the color aspect. So we have our finishes and textures and then our enhanced view. If the room is too big to view from a specific area, you can do a bird's eye view. So selecting a bird's eye is literally looking straight down onto the room. For those that need to display certain areas, but it's in a closed-in room, you can remove or hide walls as you need to. So if I right-click on the screen, you have the function for show and hide walls. So depending on the number of walls that you have in the room, you can hide them. So for example, if I want to hide wall number 7, so wall number 7 was my peninsula wall with the island. So you can hide it and then take that particular elevation or snapshot of the room. So I'll just return it. Next, what we're going to be looking at is the rendering engine inside of Cabinet Vision Design. For those that have used older versions of Cabinet Vision, you may know this as Photo Vision. But since the reimagine of Cabinet Vision, they have since called it X-Render. So for anyone that does purchase Cabinet Vision Design, you do have the ability to use the rendering engine inside of Cabinet Vision. So across the top, on my main options, so next to utilities, we have X-Render. Now, X-Rendering does give you a few, I guess, filters to apply or, rendering filters to apply to your room. So what I'm going to be demonstrating here is how the rendering will work inside of the 3D view. Just on a note, the quality of the render will come down to how lighting is adjusted inside of the room, the finishes and textures being applied, and on a more technical aspect can also determine based on the graphic hardware that's being used inside of your computer. So just a note to bear in mind when you are doing full rendering. So I'm going to just display the advanced filter. I'm just going to click on full advanced. Now, again, depending on the size of the room or how much is in the room, may determine how quick the rendering takes to do it completely. So as you can see, the room is rendering. So this is the render using the advanced filter. Okay. As you render, it needs to remain in that particular position. So if you are looking for certain aspects that you want to display, you need to position that in a 3D view prior to hitting the rendering filter. As if you decide to rotate the room, you will lose the render. So if I left click, so you can see I've just lost the render and it's returned back to this system rendering mode. So you do have those abilities or those different filters that you can apply using Xrender, along with how you adjust all your different lighting. Now, the topic I'm going to touch on next is the ability to import models inside of Cabinet Vision. So for those that are heavily reliant on model specific, it could be appliances, it could be furnishings for the room like furniture, couches, windows. Cabinet Vision does support SketchUp files. Now, it is ideal to have a SketchUp account, as well as the ability to use 3D Warehouse. So what I'll demonstrate here is, first of all, looking for a model using 3D Warehouse, what to be aware of when you are selecting a model or downloading a model, and then the process of importing it inside of your Cabinet Vision file. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go to my web browser. I already have the 3D Warehouse tab open. Okay, so for those that haven't seen it before, this is 3D Warehouse that is powered by SketchUp. If you do have an account, you can begin to search for various types of models. So what I'm going to look for vaguely is just I don't know, I'm just going to look for a couch, for example. So type in your subjects. So these are the different models that are presented to us inside of 3D Warehouse. Now, the most important thing to be aware of when you are selecting the model is what's called the polygon count. Now, for those that aren't familiar what the polygon count is, on each model, you can see if I hover over this section here is the polygon count. Now, this particular model has 177,000 polygons, which is not ideal when you are importing a model into Cabinet Vision. It is best to try and find a model that has the lowest amount of polygons as possible. And you will see, and I'll explain why that is quite detrimental. So just looking at our different couch models here, I can see this one only has a count of 736. The model looks fairly good. So I'm going to select this one. Now, when you're inside the model in 3D Warehouse, you do want to download it. So I am going to download it as a SketchUp file. So that's been added to my download folder. Now I am going to go back to our Cabinet Vision file here. I'm going to go to my elevation or plan view. It doesn't really matter. Now to import, or the process of importing a SketchUp file is via the Utilities tab. So if I select on Utilities, you see I have the option to import SketchUp model. So I'm going to select import SketchUp model. Now it's taking me to my download folder, and you can see the sofa or couch that we've just downloaded. So I'm going to open the file. Now this is the import window for SketchUp. As you can see, it has placed the model inside of the room here, or inside of the window. Now, generally, when you see a model that has a high polygon count, you will be presented with a caution. So it'll note to you that there's too many faces. Now, the reason why Cabinet Vision prefers lower polygon counts is having too many faces on a model will affect the overall performance speed of the file. So to understand it a little bit better, the software needs to read every single face that is printed on that model. So if you're importing a model that has over 10,000 faces, you will see and expect a little bit of a decline in the overall performance. It'll also take effect when you are sending scenes with high polygon models. As you create the scene, it is then trying to generate those various lines into CAD lines for that particular model. So it's always ideal to find models that are relatively anywhere in the hundreds to maybe the single thousands. Once it gets to over tens of thousands, you might see a bit of a decline in overall performance. So given that our model is only 736, this is a great example. Now, once you import the model, you can again change or have a look at the different rendering aspects. So we're in wire mode for this particular model. If you go into fill mode and texture mode, you'll vaguely see what the colors will look like. Now, the next part is the process of adding it to your library or to your catalog. What you need to do initially is select a part type. So a part type can range from anything from an assembly part to a drawer box or a hinge. Now, given that it's just a sofa, I'd like to stick with the color aspect. So I'll just select a gray color. And then from here, I'm going to select save. Once you select save, you are presented with the catalogs that you are working with, and you then need to select the correct one where that model is going to go into. So I'm going to select furnishing. Just going to scroll through my categories I have. So I might put it under just, here we go, tables and chairs. So this is a category I'm going to be placing the sofa into. And then most importantly, give it a name. So I'll just call it sofa. You can preserve the height and depth of the particular model if you require. Once you give it a name and select the correct category, you must select the Advanced tab. Now, with the Advanced tab, we need to select exactly what the object is. So it might be an accessory, it might be decorative, it would be a fixture. So I'm going to select it as a decorative object. So I'm just going to select the part. After that, you then need to assign the placement of the object. So with the placement, you can determine whether you want to resize the object. So the stretching aspect in the width, height, and depth. So that's completely up to you if you wish to resize. And most importantly, on which point of the wall that this object is going to snap to. So you have like the wall, so will be on the face or the back face of the flat section of the wall, or is it going to snap into a corner like a corner cabinet? So I'm just going to place or select it as wall. Now your vertical, this is the vertical position or vertical placement that you need to predetermine. Okay, so with a couch or a sofa, you want it to be on the floor. So I'm going to select floor. Then I'm going to click OK. Now on the far right hand side, you can provide an icon for that particular object if you so wish. So I'm just going to select this chair icon. If I click OK, and that is it. That's the entire process of saving a SketchUp model to your Cabinet Vision catalog. So now if I exit the import window, if I now then go to my objects, you can see I have my sofa down at the very bottom, and we have our preview of the model. So much like a cabinet, just need to left click and drag it out onto the floor. Now you don't have to snap it to an exact wall. You can force the couch to be in any position by holding the control key on your keyboard and then left clicking. You can then force the object into that particular position. So if I then go into 3D view, you can see there's our couch. So that's the full process of a SketchUp model and essentially the rendering functionality and the various functionalities that are presented in Cabinet Vision Design. Now, what I'm going to be doing is just quickly going back over to our presentation. Now, I believe the element that we've all been waiting for is the use of VORTEK spaces that's integrated with Cabinet Vision. So for those that aren't familiar with VORTEK spaces, for starters, it's an award-winning 3D software. It's great for any level of like a 3D designer or user. And then the library is quite extensive. So they are real-time, ready to use material library from various manufacturers. So I'll be demonstrating to you now how to use or integrate Cabinet Vision with VORTEK spaces. So what we need to do is initially have our room drawn out inside of Cabinet Vision. Now, while you're in the 3D view, if we select on Utilities, you can see we have an option to export into VORTEK. Now, by selecting VORTEK, you can see I have a VORTEK folder set up on my system. So from here, I'm going to provide it a name. So I'm just going to call it, I'll just call it like living room. So it can be named anything that you wish, or it could be the specific name for your project. So I'm just going to call it living room and then save the file. So that's essentially creating the file for us to import into VORTEK spaces. Now from here, I'm going to open VORTEK spaces. So I'm just going to change my screen. So this is VORTEK spaces that's already been opened on my end. So this is essentially the main screen that you will see. On this screen in front of you, you would generally see the various projects that you would be working on. Down the bottom left, you can create like an empty room or select a file to import. So what I'm going to do is select a file to import. I'm going to import our test living room file and click OK. And then you can rename the project inside of VORTEK spaces if required. I'm just going to leave it as is and go to import. Okay, what you see is the project loading up into VORTEK spaces. Now with VORTEK spaces, it does automatically adjust lighting in various areas for you already. So like I said, it's very suitable for any level of user that's, any or little to no experience with like 3D software in a sense. Now, as you can see here, we have our room that we have drawn inside of Cabinet Vision. Now, the navigation of the screen is all dependent on your mouse. So holding the left click will pan or give you the different directions around the room. Holding right click will allow you to pan around the room, so moving in various directions. And then if your mouse has a scroll wheel, you will click and hold, and then you can rotate around the room. If you're not comfortable with using the mouse, you can use the directional arrows on your keyboard. So up, down, left, and right. And holding shift and using the directional keys will allow you to move in that direction. Now, if you are not comfortable, or if you are not quite, how do I say, pleased with the detailing or the 3D aspect inside of Cabinet Vision, VORTEK spaces will provide you what you need. So as you can see, across the top of VORTEK spaces, you have different options that you can select from. Initially, when you open up the file, you'll be on the Materials tab. Now, inside of VORTEK spaces, even though we have textures applied to our room already, VORTEK spaces will allow you to replace the material look on demand. So for example, you can see our floor already has the texture applied. When you select the Materials tab, and if I left click on the floor, you can see now the whole floor is highlighted, and then you are presented with the different materials and textures that you can apply. So for example, I'm going to apply a wood floor. Okay, now within each category of the material, there would be the actual materials that you can apply. So they are quite large in regards to the selection that's available to you. So for example, I will just select this older black floor here. As you can see, it has applied it immediately. Okay. Now also, with applying the flooring or in any other various materials, you can adjust the rotation. So as we've already applied the material, if I move my mouse into the bottom left corner, you can see there's the rotation section. So by selecting or holding on the slider, you can adjust the rotation of the flooring. If you don't want to use the slider and you know the exact angle, you can apply the value to the model. 45. So 4. There we go. Or if you use the slider, you can see the value adjust there. Now, this can apply to every single aspect of the room, so not just your flooring, your walls as well. So as you can see, as I selected walls, the VORTEK Spaces automatically recognizes that it is a wall, and then will provide you with the different, I guess, paint options that you can apply to the walls here. So everyone, I believe, would be familiar with Dulux or Wattle. So you can select a Dulux color. Within that particular category, you have the different colors that you can, or different shades of colors that you can select from. So it could be an orange wall. And again, every single material can be adjusted in the room. Now, when you left click on particular groups, like I said, VORTEK Spaces will recognize every single group that's allocated. So if I select on the cabinet door, it then recognizes that I do have various cabinets in the room, and then we can apply different materials and textures. Now, you aren't limited to what's being applied for the cabinets group. If I go back to the root, which is like the main area, you can then select the different type of material groups and apply it to that specific area. So for example, if you wanted to apply a paint, again, you can select the paint color and then apply it to the whole room or to that particular group. Now, you don't necessarily have to select every single or change the color for every single piece of joinery in the room. By left clicking and left clicking again, it would only select that particular door in this sense. Now, if you hold the control key, you can select your particular aspects that you just want to change the color for. So if you have two different colors in the room, you can select what you need and then change the material on that. So that's just roughly the material side inside of VORTEK Spaces. Now, as you can see, our room is looking pretty empty and quite bland. We only have our joinery and a rough couch that we've done inside of Cabinet Vision. Now, you can also apply various 3D models inside of VORTEK Spaces as well. So your first tab here is 3D models. And then down the bottom, again, you are provided with various different groups that you can place inside of your project here. So for example, if I want to place a window, I'm going to select windows. Now, like I said, VORTEK Spaces does offer products from actual manufacturers and suppliers. So you can make the room look as realistic for your customer and present it to them. Now, I'm just going to select one of these generic windows. So I'm just going to select this white, or you can change the color of it as well based on the color swatch. So I'm going to select the white window. Now, when you select a 3D object, depending on where you're placing the 3D model, it will follow it accordingly. So if it's on the floor, it'll be placed on the floor. So it's all relative to where your mouse is pointing to or where it's hovering over. So I am going to place it on this wall. Now, once you place a 3D model, you are then presented with your 3 axes that you can adjust the position. So, so like your in and out, left and right, and up and down. Now, when you are presented with the the position adjustment initially. You can also adjust the rotation. So on the left-hand side, you have your various options that you can use inside of VORTEK for that particular model. So the one below the positional, you have your rotation. So you'll be presented with the sphere and again, the different axes as to where you can rotate that particular model. Below that is your scaling. So if you need to resize the model, you have your different points as to which you can select. So if you need to extend it diagonally, horizontally, or vertically. Okay, so that's the adjustments and position adjustments you have for your 3D models. You aren't limited to the models and materials that are here. You can import your own. So much like Cabinet Vision, or inside of VORTEK spaces, the bottom right corner, you can import a 3D model. VORTEK spaces does support SketchUp files as well. So again, you can go back to 3D Warehouse. However, you wouldn't download it as a SketchUp file. It would be called a collada file. So if I just quickly go back to a 3D Warehouse, so it'd be a collada file instead of a SketchUp file. Back into VORTEK spaces. Now you can also apply lighting inside of VORTEK spaces as well. It is relatively a lot easier to adjust the light inside of VORTEK spaces than it is in Cabinet Vision Design. So if you select the staging tab across the top, this is where you would apply your various lighting inside of your project. So for example, if you just wanted lights across the ceiling, on the left-hand side, you can select the light bulb icon. From here, you would select a point as to where you want to place the light. Now, it is a lot easier if you do have a ceiling applied inside of the room. Just makes the position of the light a lot easier to adjust. So by left-clicking, you can apply different lights inside of the room. If you don't want to be selecting the light bulb every time, there is a shortcut. If you just select the L key, so the letter L on your keyboard, it will just automatically populate for light. Okay, so I've just roughly placed some lights all over the room. Now you can adjust the lights accordingly as well. So by selecting on one of the lights, if your lights are in different vertical positions, you can align them. So they're all aligned. And then from here, you have your different types that you can apply as well. So you have, for example, a spotlight or points. So a point would be kind of like a downlight scenario. But a spotlight, you can adjust the intensity. So basically, if you need it to be bright or darker. The range, so how much the light is going to hit across the room. And then as well as the angle. So as you can see, I'm adjusting the slider of the angle, and it's either increasing or reducing exactly where that light is emitting. Below that, you have a temperature adjust as well. So if you need a cooler light or if you want a warmer type of light, you can adjust all of that with the slider. You can also turn them on and off at the very top. So you have that functionality there. If you need to rotate the lights in various directions, you can do that as well. Or if you need to remove those particular lights altogether, down the bottom, you can remove those lights as well. Now, these lights are just generally for spot lighting. So if you have like, just like a downlight on your ceiling or underneath your cabinet. There is another type of lighting that you can apply inside of VORTEK spaces, and that is essentially your LED strip lighting. So below the light bulb, you have this like tape or strip, which is your LED component. So your LED component can go anywhere inside of your room. So you can make it realistic as possible if you actually do have LED lighting in the room. So I'm just going to zoom in to the underside of this cabinet as much as possible. Then I'm going to rotate underneath. Can be a bit tricky navigating. So as you can see, we do have an under panel underneath our overhead cabinet. Now, if I wanted to make this look realistic as possible, you could also apply a LED strip model. So if I go back to 3D models, if I scroll across my categories, you should find one for lighting. So we have lighting. If you don't want to be navigating with the slider bar across all the different categories of models, down the bottom left corner, you do have a filter. So you can search in what you're looking for particularly, or just like a rough area. So I'm just going to select on lighting, lights. And as you can see, we have our different options. So our most common options are for your LED downlight. Then you also have what's called the hanger LED. So that's essentially your strip lighting. So I'm just going to pull this out. I'm just going to place it anywhere in the room. As you can see, it's not exactly realistic to an LED strip light that we would see on the other underside of a cabinet. So I am firstly going to rotate the objects. Then I'm going to move the position in and out using our arrows. And then I'm going to rescale. So we need this to fit exactly like underneath our overhead cabinet here. So I'll start with just adjusting the overall height. So it's pretty much as flat as possible. And then reposition so it sits underneath our cabinet here. So it can go through objects. So as you're adjusting it, you just want to be sure that it's just touching the object like so. Now this is just a rough placement. So I have my LED strip light model. And then from here, I'm going to go back to staging and then apply my LED strip light. So you start with selecting one point and then dragging across to your final point. And there is essentially your LED strip light underneath your overhead cabinet. So from here, much like the other lights, you can adjust if they are a spot or points, okay? So you can adjust the intensity of the lighting, the range. So that's the option to apply lighting inside of VORTEK spaces. Now, once you have your whole room pretty much the way you want it, the final step would be to create your different viewpoints, and then you can create a quick walkthrough if you want to present it to your customer. So by doing so, if I select the picture icon below, it would be the visit tab across the top. So with the visit tab, you then select the eye icon on the left-hand side here. Now, along with that, this is where you start creating your viewpoints. So I'm just going to adjust my angle of the room accordingly. So by selecting the first icon, which is adding a viewpoint, you can see it's added viewpoint number 0. So this will be your starting point as to where the video is going to take the walkthrough. And then essentially you would then move to the next location. So again, you just position where you want to display as best as possible. And then you're going to be adding a viewpoint. And then moving over to the next point. So in this case, I'm just using the arrow keys if you want to remain at a particular elevation. And then add another viewpoint. Move over to another location. Turning around and adding another viewpoint. So you can add as many viewpoints as you require. Once you are set, you can then hit the record button. So as you can see, it's setting up the video for rendering. Now, all you need to do is allow the video or the recording to finish rendering. Once it is finished rendering, it will then provide and save the file for you. Now I'm not going to wait for this to go through, so I'm just going to cancel this. Once it's done, it will write the video for you, like I said before. As you can see, it's giving you like a rough video. So this is essentially VORTEK spaces. What I do want to show you now is how, if you spend a little bit of time into rendering a room, what it could look like potentially as a finished product. So I'm just going to go back to our main screen. I'll just save the design. Now I already have a room that I completed, so I'm going to open up that room. So this is essentially the same room that we were looking at before. However, as you can see, I do have a ceiling. I have placed some downlights into the room. I've added some furniture into the room as well. So I have a table, a couch, various windows. And as you can see, I have also applied a background setting. So that background setting comes from the staging aspect. So that last option that I had mistakenly selected before, you can apply a different, what they call a skybox. So if you have windows in the room, you can change different views. So it adds that personal element or natural element to the room and rendering. I've also added some additional appliances here. So I have a sink. Couldn't see before, but I also have a dishwasher. And with VORTEK spaces, for those that attended the Planet Roadshow at any state or in any state last year, you may have experienced looking at VORTEK spaces via VR headset. So that was the Oculus. So I've just kind of put that there and a pair of headphones. So again, VORTEK spaces is great for not only just joinery rendering, but a full interior designing aspect as well. Now, what I want to finish up is just showing you the video of the full walkthrough of this particular room. So I am just going to go open up a file explorer, go to my VORTEK folder, and go to my sign. And that is it. Thank you, everyone. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed the Cabinet Vision Design and VORTEK Spaces webinar. Like I said, definitely great for the design and sales element. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Damien. Yet another great walkthrough there. I'm sure everybody enjoyed all of that, in particular a visually spectacular presentation of what you can do with VORTEK spaces. So that's really great, and hope everybody enjoyed it. We did have a couple of questions throughout the session. Thank you very much. So look forward to following up with those. We will get back to you as soon as possible after today, and we will talk to you individually about those. Unfortunately, we have come to the webinar for today, and we were a little bit over time, but for anybody who couldn't make it right to the end, we of course have this recorded, and we'll be passing that along in the next few days. Just a few messages, if I may, before we wrap up today. If you'd like to learn even more about today's subject or anything else with to do with Cabinet Vision, you may wish to book an appointment with our expert team for a one-on-one customization, training and education session, or multiple sessions for that matter. They can be very easily booked using the online booking tool on our training webpage, or otherwise by contacting myself on the concierge email for assistance. Be more than happy to show you how to do that, as you can see on the screen there. Just also to let everyone know, today is our final informational webinar, as we call them. Our next webinar series will be shifting to an all educational set of topics where we'll dive even more deeply into the technical subject matter and be getting more into detail. So our next webinar coming up soon will be outsourcing, drafting and machining, which is scheduled for Wednesday, the 14th of August. So please do keep a lookout for the regular email blasts that we send out. And they have the registration link embedded in them where you can register to join. And also you can take a look at our upcoming events at the events page on our website as well. We hope you can join us for that one too, and we look forward to seeing you then, of course. After each event, one final note about follow-up, we do offer customer feedback surveys, and we certainly would value your feedback and comments. They are a very brief digital form, which we encourage everyone to take just a minute to complete and provide us your feedback. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or ideas for future content, we'd also love to hear from you about those, because we absolutely want the subject matter from our webinars to be valuable, meaningful, and engaging for you. So things that mean the most to you, please let us know, and we'll do our very best to include those in new subject matter for future webinars. On the subject of events, now that we have rebooted our face-to-face events, which we had to unfortunately put a stop to because of COVID, or the Planet Tech Days, as you may know them. Next up in our national series of events, for anyone in the Queensland area, on Wednesday, the 28th of August, we'll be lucky enough to be hosted by Hafley at their Queensland facility. And we hope to be able to see you there as possible. For anyone who's been able to invest time and come along and join us for those in the past, you will know, but for those that don't know, it's a great opportunity where we can showcase some of the newest updates and news about products and solutions. We will go over some existing products and solutions, but it's a great opportunity for you to be able to bring along any questions that you can get time and you can spend time with one of our services team experts. Sit down with them and go through any questions or issues that you might like to learn a bit more about. So you can, as well as that, meet with members of our team. We'll have our account managers and business development managers there as well. Our industry, your industry peers, rather, of course, a great opportunity to be able to catch up with your peers completing similar kind of work. And just a little bonus, there will be a delicious complimentary lunch put on as well. So we hope that you'll get a chance to join us there. We do have people that have actually flown in from other areas as well. So obviously, mostly for those that are in the Queensland area, but we'd love anybody to come along who can. One very last thing for today before we finish up, we have something very special on offer. For those of you that have been able to stay with us and join in today, together with those that have unfortunately had to leave today, anybody who's come along, we have a lucky prize which we will be offering. We'll be drawing one lucky winner from the list of names of everybody who has both registered and joined into the webinar, and we have a great prize to give away. That's a free 3-month subscription to VORTEK Spaces. So I'm sure after what everybody has seen today, you'll be very happy to be able to explore and exploit all of the great features that VORTEK Spaces offers you for 3 months free full subscription. So we will be drawing the name of that lucky winner right after the webinar today, just after conclusion. We'll make arrangements with that person and the winner will be contacted individually and personally by your assigned Planet account manager. So please look out for that. And that concludes our webinar today on the subject, which thank you, Damien, amazing subject of VORTEK spaces and cabinet vision design. From Damien, myself, all of the team here at Planet Australia, we'd like to say a huge thank you for, again, taking time out of your busy schedule. We know it's hard sometimes to find that time, but we thank you very much. We hope you've enjoyed another of the Planet webinar series. We wish you a great day and a remainder of the week ahead, and we look forward to seeing you at the next and future webinars. So from me, Noel, from Damien, and everybody here at Planet, thank you so much, and have a great day and the rest of the week. Bye-bye now.